Far beyond the wide fields and gentle hills, there was a long valley where a calm river moved through the land in slow silver curves. The valley was quiet in a deep and steady way, as if the land itself preferred calm over noise. Tall grass grew along the riverbanks, bending slightly when the night air moved through it. Trees stood in small groups near the water, their branches leaning over the surface, where shadows rested quietly. During the day, the river reflected clouds and sky, but at night it reflected something different. When darkness settled across the valley and the stars appeared above, the river began to carry their light. Each small ripple of water held tiny points of brightness. From the hills above, the river looked like a slow path of scattered stars moving through the land. The valley had many small paths leading down to the water, but no large roads and no busy towns. Only a few stone bridges crossed the river, each one built long ago. These bridges connected the quiet fields on one side with the deeper woods on the other. Lamps were placed at the ends of the bridges, and their warm light rested softly on the old stone. When a night arrived and the stars filled the sky, the bridges became quiet places to stand and watch the river carry the sky slowly downstream. The first bridge stood near the widest bend of the river. It was built from pale stone blocks, worn smooth by many years of wind and rain. Moss grew between the cracks of the stones, giving the bridge a soft green edge along its sides. The bridge had 3 arches beneath it, where the water passed through in gentle flowing lines. During the night, a single lantern hung from a curved metal hook near the center of the bridge. The lantern light spread across the stones and touched the slow water below. When the sky was clear and full of stars, the river beneath the bridge looked deep and endless. Each star, reflected in the moving water, appeared, stretched, and slowly drifted away. From the center of the bridge, the river could be seen flowing both directions through the valley. One direction curved toward distant hills that faded into darkness. The other direction moved between rows of trees and fields that rested quietly under the night sky. The bridge itself made no sound. Even the river below seemed to move without hurry. The lantern above the stones swayed slightly now and then, though the air in the valley was calm. In that quiet place, the stars in the sky and the stars in the river appeared almost the same. Near the bridge, a narrow path followed the riverbank for a long distance. Small lantern posts stood along this path at even spaces. Their light was soft and warm, glowing gently across the grass and stones. The lanterns were not bright enough to disturb the night sky above. Instead, they seemed to rest quietly beside the darkness. Walking along the path revealed new views of the river at every bend. Sometimes the water widened into still pools, where the stars appeared clearly. Other places narrowed between tall reeds, where the reflections broke into scattered pieces of light. The reeds moved gently, brushing together with soft sounds. Occasionally, the path passed under low tree branches that reached toward the water. Leaves hung quietly in the night air, forming dark shapes against the sky. The lantern path did not lead to a large town or busy road. It simply followed the river through the valley, continuing past bridges, small docks, and open fields. Each lantern along the path waited patiently through the night, shining over the river that carried the quiet light of distant stars. Farther along, the river stood a small wooden dock that reached a short distance over the water. The boards of the dock were old but carefully kept, their surfaces pale from many seasons of sun and rain. Wooden posts rose at the corners, each one wrapped with thick rope where boats could be tied. On this night, no boats rested there. The dock remained still above the slow current. A small lantern sat on a hook beside the dock entrance, its glow touching the wood in warm circles. From the end of the dock, the river opened wide toward the center of the valley. Stars reflected across the entire surface, stretching from one bank to the other. The gentle movement of water carried the reflections slowly past the dock and beneath the bridge farther downstream. Watching the river from that place felt like watching the sky travel quietly through the valley. The dock creaked only once when the water shifted beneath it. After that, it remained silent again. Above the river, the night sky was clear and deep, and the stars continued their steady shine. While the river carried their light onward through the dark valley, farther along the valley, the river passed beneath another bridge. This bridge was older than the first and narrower as well. Its stones were darker, and vines had slowly climbed along one side of the arch over many years. The bridge curved gently upward in the middle, before descending again toward the opposite bank. A small lantern rested on a metal stand near the center, glowing quietly in the night air. Beneath the arch, the river moved in a deep and smooth channel. The stars above appeared clearly in the water there. Each point of light floated across the surface, stretching and drifting as the current carried it onward. From the top of the bridge, the river looked like a long ribbon of quiet brightness winding through the dark valley. The fields on both sides rested under the wide sky. No wind crossed the grass, and the lantern on the bridge remained almost perfectly still. The slow water continued its path beneath the arch, carrying the reflections of the night sky gently through the valley. Beyond the second bridge, the riverbank opened into a wide field, where pale flowers grew in quiet clusters. These flowers opened only at night, and their petals reflected the faint light of the stars above. From a distance, the field looked like a soft white mist resting across the land. A narrow path crossed through the flowers, curving slowly toward the river. The petals moved slightly whenever the air shifted across the valley. Their movement was small and quiet, like the slow turning of pages in a book left open on a table. From the edge of the riverbank, the field stretched outward beneath the sky. The stars above and the flowers below seemed to mirror one another. The river flowed beside the field without changing its gentle rhythm. Each ripple carried the reflection of the sky past the silent flowers. The lanterns from the distant bridge glowed faintly behind the tall grass. In that part of the valley, the night seemed wide and open, filled with stillness and soft light. At a bend in the river, a small wooden boat rested against the bank. It was tied to a post by a thick rope that dipped into the water before rising again toward the dock. The boat rocked slightly with the slow movement of the current. Its surface showed signs of long use, with pale wood along the edges and darker boards along the center where many feet had once stepped. A lantern hung from the bow of the boat. The lantern light moved softly across the water whenever the boat shifted. From the boat's position, the river curved around a group of tall willow trees. Their long branches leaned toward the water, brushing the surface in quiet lines. The reflections of stars passed through the branches as the current carried them along. Sometimes a ripple formed when the branches touched the water, breaking the reflections into scattered lights before they slowly joined together again downstream. The small boat remained tied beside the bank, moving only enough to follow the river's calm rhythm. The bend of the river near the willow trees was one of the quietest places in the valley. The trees grew close together, their long branches forming soft shapes above the water. Their leaves moved gently when the night air passed through them. Beneath the branches, the river slowed slightly as it curved around the bank. The water there appeared darker than in the open parts of the valley, yet the stars still found their way into the reflections below. The lantern from the boat created a warm circle of light near the roots of the trees. Outside that circle, the river returned to its silver path beneath the sky. From the willow bend, the valley could be seen stretching in both directions. Bridges rested in the distance. Fields lay quiet beneath the stars. The slow river continued its calm journey through the land, carrying the reflections of the sky as it moved through shadow and open space alike. Above the willow bend, a small hill rose beside the river. At the top of the hill stood a simple watchtower, built from stacked stone blocks. The tower was not tall, but it looked out across the entire valley. A narrow path climbed the hillside, in gentle turns, leading to the tower door. At night, the tower held a small lantern near its window. The lantern light reached only a short distance outside, leaving most of the tower in quiet shadow. From that height, the river could be seen winding through the valley like a long silver thread. The reflections of stars appeared along the entire length of water, moving slowly beneath the open sky. The bridges looked small from the hill. The lantern path near the first bridge formed a faint line through the grass. The valley beyond stretched wide and silent under the night sky. The watchtower remained still above the river, quietly overlooking the slow movement of stars carried through the water below. Beyond the watchtower hill, the river made its widest turn through the valley. The water spread out slightly there, forming a calm surface that reflected the sky more clearly than anywhere else along its path. From the banks, the reflections appeared almost motionless at first. Only after careful watching could the slow movement be seen. The stars drifted across the water one by one, carried by the gentle current. The sky above remained full of steady light, while the river below slowly gathered those lights and moved them through the valley. Tall grasses surrounded the deep bend, forming soft shapes that swayed quietly in the night air. The lanterns from the bridges could still be seen far upstream. Downstream, the river disappeared into a darker stretch of trees where the valley continued beyond sight. The deep bend remained one of the calmest places along the river. There, the stars and the water seemed to share the same quiet motion as they traveled slowly through the valley together. As the night continued, the lanterns along the river path glowed quietly beneath the sky. The bridges stood still above the slow water, their stone arches resting over the gentle current. Near the center of the valley, the first bridge remained softly lit by its hanging lantern. The warm glow touched the stones and drifted across the water beneath the arch. At midnight, the valley was at its quietest. The fields rested under the sky without movement. The trees along the riverbank held their branches still. Even the reeds beside the water barely shifted. From the bridge, the river stretched in both directions, like a quiet road of light. The reflections of stars moved slowly with the current, passing beneath the bridge one by one. The lantern above the stones cast a small circle of gold across the water, and within that circle, the reflections gathered briefly before continuing their slow journey downstream. The bridge itself seemed to listen to the calm river flowing beneath it. The night above remained wide and clear, filled with the distant stars, whose light drifted quietly across the valley below. High above the valley, the sky stretched endlessly in every direction. The stars were scattered across it like quiet points of silver light. Some appeared brighter than others, and some were faint and distant. Together, they formed a calm and steady pattern that covered the whole sky. From the valley floor, the stars appeared to rest above the river as if they belonged to it. The slow water carried their reflections gently through the bends and curves of the valley. Along the banks, the grass and flowers remained quiet in the cool night air. The lantern path beside the river glowed softly, its lights forming a gentle trail through the darkness. Each lantern shone downward onto the grass and stones without reaching far into the sky. The valley remained wide and still beneath the stars. From the watchtower hill, the entire river could be seen, winding through the land like a silver ribbon beneath the night sky. Everywhere along its path, the reflections of stars moved slowly across the surface of the water. As the night slowly continued, the sky began to change in small ways that were difficult to notice at first. The darkness softened slightly near the edge of the valley, where the hills met the sky. The stars still shone clearly above, but their reflections in the river began to appear softer and wider. The water itself remained calm, carrying the light of the sky through the quiet bends of the valley. Along the riverbank, the lanterns still glowed beside the path. The bridges rested above the water, just as they had throughout the night. The willow trees near the bend stood quietly over the current, their long branches hanging low above the surface. The small wooden boat beside the dock moved gently with the river's rhythm. The lantern hanging from its bow swayed slightly as the current shifted beneath it. The valley remained peaceful as the river continued to carry the last deep reflections of the stars across the water. Slowly, the first pale light of morning began to appear beyond the hills. The sky changed from deep blue to a softer shade near the horizon. The stars remained visible overhead, but their reflections in the river gradually faded into the brightening water. The lanterns along the river path continued to glow for a while longer, their warm light resting gently on the grass and stones. The bridges appeared clearer in the growing light, their arches reflected in the river below, forming calm shapes across the surface. The field of night flowers near the second bridge began to close their pale petals as the light returned to the valley. The river continued its slow movement through the land, now carrying the soft color of early morning instead of the bright reflections of stars. The sky above widened with light, while the valley remained calm and quiet. As the morning light spread across the valley, the lanterns along the path slowly dimmed. One by one, they faded into the brightness of the new day. The bridges stood quietly above the water, their stones warmed by the rising sun. The fields beside the river brightened with color as the grass caught the first golden light. The watchtower hill looked peaceful above the valley, its small window now pale against the sky. The river flowed just as gently as it had during the night. Its surface now reflected the soft blue of the morning sky instead of the distant stars. The small wooden boat beside the dock rested quietly against the bank. The willow trees lifted their branches slightly. As the air warmed with daylight, the valley appeared calm and open under the growing light. The river continued its long journey through the land, carrying the quiet memory of the night sky that had once drifted across its waters. Throughout the valley, the river continued its gentle path between the fields and hills. During the night, it had carried the reflections of countless stars across its calm surface. Now, under the morning sky, the water moved forward with the same steady rhythm. The bridges, lantern path, willow trees, and quiet docks remained along its banks just as they had before. The valley returned slowly to the quiet calm of daytime, yet the river kept flowing through the same peaceful bends where the stars had once rested upon its surface. Long after the night had passed, the river still followed its slow and steady course through the valley, moving quietly beneath the open sky as it had for many years.